Hello and welcome to session number 6 on carbs, glycemic index, and failing in order to succeed. So have you noticed how small, subtle shifts are starting to add up? Are you getting present to your energy level, your sleep, how your clothes fit differently, and how your body is going through an adjustment and the results to that? You see, today you will discover how crucial it is to learn to fail, that it is actually part of achieving success and fulfilling your dreams. So let's get started. I am your coach. My name's Kathy Compton. And before we dive in, I'm going to share with you something about my personal life. You see, the picture you see here actually came from inside my home. This was a home I bought 3 years ago. And when I walked in, just looking to see whether or not this was a home I was going to purchase, I walked into a dark living room, and it was a December morning, and it was very cold in there, and it was dark. There were no windows at all in the living room. Yet in the middle of the living room floor, with no sun, no water, and no one there to do anything or provide anything, I saw this plant growing through a crack in the cement. And I remember saying to myself, wow, if that's possible, to actually have something grow where there's no sun, no water, and no soil, then I wonder if anything's possible. And in that moment, I literally created, not only would this be my home, but this would be a philosophy that I would use in my life anytime I got stuck, that anything really truly is possible. So we're at the end of week 6 here. Are you starting to have breakthroughs in what you're discovering? And are you starting to step into who you are and who you are that you created you are, not the default? So what did you accomplish? And what did your partner accomplish? You see, the only greater joy than having you fulfill on your goals and dreams is having your trusted partner also cross the finish line with you and fulfill on their dreams as well. So how was life for you outside of your comfort zone? Was it exhilarating? Was it exciting? Was it a little scary? And if there were areas where you resisted stepping out of your comfort zone, what were the thoughts, the feelings, and the beliefs that got in the way of you taking action? And remember, no action, no results. So pause this presentation and really take some time, and I encourage you to do the work. Take the time that's necessary to get present to what you accomplished. What new recipes did you try? Where did you step out of your comfort zone? Actually acknowledge yourself and acknowledge your partner for what you've accomplished. We're very good at looking at what doesn't work and where we messed up, but we're not so good at actually acknowledging the breakthroughs and the accomplishments. That is part of this program and part of Youphoria. So pause this presentation, take some time to do this, and then start when you're ready. See, I came across this while doing research on brain science and retraining your brain, because you see, that's what it's all about. It literally is about getting the science behind it and mastering being able to get out of that past way of thinking and being that holds us back and keeps us a prisoner in our own life. So Dr. David Kruger uses insights of psychology, neuroscience, and he's a professional coach, and he works with people in coaching them towards change. He's written 17 books on success, wellness, money, and self-development. And he reminds us, as you see in the quote there, that your mind is an energy field, and it responds to focus. Where you focus your attention creates brain connections. And he, in his research, demonstrated how powerful stories can be when he revealed a startling statistic that 95% of the people who experienced significant weight loss gained it all back. The problem is that they have not made the changes in their inner story about who they are. So he continued by saying that we always return to our core identity. If you make changes in your behavior without changing your core identity, without changing your surface story, your story about who you are and who you are, then you will go back to your old self. So this may be revolutionary to some. However, it is the core philosophy and why Youphoria is so effective. I was so elated when I actually saw someone else out there in the world, someone who's done a lot of research in science and is very successful, gets that it's all about changing that, shifting that core story and creating a new who you are and a place to stand. Absolutely, absolutely critical. And this is a huge piece. So I encourage you, if you have not done this yet, get off the fence. Stop waiting. What are you waiting for? Nothing will happen for you or to you until you actually get in action and create who you are. Then your whole life will open up, as well as your goals being fulfilled. Now, I learned a long time ago that I don't have to know everything. And although sometimes some people close to me might say that I act like I know everything, I get that I don't. And the more I understand that I don't know, the more I want to discover what's there, what's new, what I don't know, especially what I don't know that I don't know. So if you want to be successful, however, just do what successful people do. It's a simple secret to success. So here are 5 secrets of the top 5% in the area of weight loss. One is they make it public. What does that mean? Well, the 5% that are successful, they don't keep their weight loss efforts and their goals to themselves. They get coaching and they share with their community. Well, who's the community? Their spouse, their children, their best friend, the people they hang out with, and they make it public. The second thing that the 5% of the people who are successful at weight loss do is they pay attention. You see, a permanent, healthy lifestyle is created on purpose. It's not an accident. It's not something somebody does to you or for you. It's created, and it's created on purpose. There's planning involved. There's tracking involved. There's reading labels, being responsible, and really owning that you own your body. You own it. You live there. You're not renting it. And they ask questions. The third thing that the 5% of successful people do is they enjoy themselves. Now, this might shock you, but they actually enjoy themselves. You see, only a small percentage make weight loss a positive experience and have fun with it. They feel good about their goals and their new habits. And this is what the 5% who accomplish their goals are doing. Number 4, they make gradual changes. You see, the 5% get that permanent change is a process, not a 21-day event or a sprint to the finish line. They actually build on a few small habits at a time, and that's the philosophy of Kaizen, the principal foundational key to why Youphoria is so effective. And then lastly, they allow themselves to fail. Now, this is absolutely critical, so listen closely. They allow themselves to fail. You see, every one of the 5% has failed at some point along the journey, every one of them. The difference is that they've learned to forgive setbacks and they've refused to beat themselves up. So essentially, they used that failing to actually move them forward. They failed forward. So I really believe it's been a long time philosophy of mine and something I use throughout my professional years of coaching and my years of doing executive coaching and my years of doing wellness and weight management coaching, is that in the middle of every difficulty, there truly is an opportunity. And I literally look for the opportunity in everything, including the most difficult times in my life, including the times where my house was foreclosed, including the times where I had some health challenges, including the times when I had major knee replacement surgery and thought it was the worst thing that ever could have happened. I looked for opportunity and I found it. So what is the simplest, most powerful way to succeed? Take just a minute and guess. Look and see if you can figure it out. Succeed at what? Succeed at anything. What do you believe is the most powerful, simplest way to succeed? Now, this might surprise you, but just hang in there with me. Step one is to fail, and step two is to succeed. Well, where did that come from? Where did that come from? Well, basically, it came from history. It's a proven fact that it is the formula for just about every person who has ever succeeded. So let me share with you just a few of the successful people that you've likely heard of that have failed, and they failed often. You see, Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, spoke to the graduating class of Harvard in 2008. She didn't talk about success. She actually talked about failures, her own in particular. And I absolutely love her quote. She said, "You might never fail on the scale that I did." Rowling told the privileged audience graduating from Harvard, "But it is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default." So the first one I want to share with you who failed and failed pretty significantly was someone that started his dream at the age of 65 years old. He got a Social Security check for $105 and he was so mad that instead of complaining, he did something about it. He thought that restaurant owners would love his fried chicken recipe, and he drove around the country knocking on doors, sleeping in his car, wearing his white suit. Do you know how many times people said no to this individual who founded KFC? 1,009 times he got a no before he got a yes. And he created Kentucky Fried Chicken, none other than Colonel Sanders. Now this next man, he actually was turned down 302 times before he got financing for creating one of the most amazing, extraordinary experiences and adventures of a lifetime. You see, Walt Disney created Disneyland and Disney World after he was turned down over 300 times. Now this next successful historical individual, he didn't even speak until he was the age of 4. And he didn't read until he was 7 years old. His parents and teachers, they actually thought he was mentally handicapped, yet he turned out to be and to win a Nobel Prize in the face of modern physics. None other than Albert Einstein. See, this next person, quite fascinating, going in a whole different world. He actually only sold one painting. Do you recognize this painting? Well, he only sold one painting in his lifetime, and he sold it to a friend. So essentially, he failed. He failed and failed and failed, but despite that, he kept painting. He ended up finishing over 800 paintings. And although he only sold one in his lifetime, his paintings are now some of the most expensive paintings, some valued at over $142 million. And this is Vincent van Gogh. Now you might not recognize this individual here. He actually was first a lawyer who just loved to write. So he's a lawyer, and in his free time he would do some writing. But then he decided he was going to actually write a book. He was going to actually follow his passion and write a book. The problem is the book was rejected 28 times until he got one yes for only 5,000 copies to be printed. He has since sold 250 million total copies of his books, and John Grisham is one of the most famous authors to date. Now this next group you might not be familiar with if you're a younger person, but they were rejected by many record labels. And in one famous rejection that they got, the letter said, guitar groups are on their way out, and the Beatles have no future in show business. Yet the Beatles are still to this day one of the most popular groups that ever was. And my favorite, given that I've been a sports coach much of my life and am passionate about athletics and sports and what they provide people, he's famous for being cut from his high school basketball team. He turned out to be the greatest basketball player of all time, but he never let failure deter him. And I love this quote of his. He says, I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. On 26 occasions, I have been given the opportunity to take the game-winning shot, and I missed it. I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeeded. So the last one we're going to talk about is one that's impacting us every day. In fact, right now where you're sitting, you're probably being impacted by this individual's ability to fail and fail and fail and have the courage to keep going. You see, no list of success from failures would be complete without a man who gave us many inventions, including the light bulb. He knew failure would not stop him. He said, if I find 10,000 ways something won't work, I haven't failed. I'm not discouraged because every wrong attempt that I discard is another step forward. So there's an example of some of the most successful people in life and in history that have failed and failed and failed and failed and failed only to succeed. In fact, it was key to their success. So how bad do you want to achieve your goal? How much do you believe in what you're doing? How much do you believe? Well, there's a Japanese proverb that is brilliant. And if you live your life by this one simple yet profound statement, your life will be extraordinary. Do you know what this is the symbol for, this famous Japanese proverb? It simply says, fall down 7 times, get up 8. So let's look at failing. Let's look at that. In fact, let me read to you the timeline from one of the most successful people in American history, someone we've all heard of. You see, this individual in 1832 lost his job, so he failed right off the bat. He was defeated for the state legislature that same year. In 1833, he then failed in business. In 1834, however, he was elected to the Illinois state legislature. But in 1835, the very next year, his sweetheart died, and he was heartbroken. In 1836, he actually had a nervous breakdown. And in 1838, he was defeated for Speaker of the House. Years later, in 1843, he was defeated again for nomination to Congress. In 1844, he took some action and established his own law practice. And in 1846, he was elected to Congress. Only in 1848, he lost the renomination. In 1854, he was defeated for U.S. State Senate. In 1856, he was defeated for nomination for Vice President. And yet again, in 1858, he was defeated yet again for the U.S. Senate. And in 1860, he was elected President of the United States and is known as one of the presidents that made the biggest difference in our country. Absolutely amazing. You see, what we think defines us. The brain is listening to what we're saying. If we engage it appropriately, we can create whatever we want. And it's key to get this. What we think defines us. You need to start being responsible for those thoughts and those beliefs that you yourself are creating. And yes, you are creating them. They are being generated from you. The brain is listening to what you're saying. So let's look at failing and all that goes with that. You see, this really is the single most critical piece and the number one reason why people do not get what they want in life. We forget that we once had the ability to fail when we were young. We didn't crumble and turn on ourselves and make ourselves wrong and beat ourselves up. We simply failed. You see, remember when you first learned to ride a bicycle? I tell you, there's nothing more challenging or daunting than getting on two round wheels and having them move forward with you moving your feet back and forth. And guess what? Knowing that if you don't do it right, you will fall and it will hurt. It seemed like you would never be able to do it. And in fact, it seemed like you would never get balance. In fact, you failed and fell, maybe even several times. Then one day it happened. You found balance. And to this day, you still have it. It's one of those things you'll have for the rest of your life until you become an age where maybe you lose your balance. But that moment defined us. Why? Not because we got balance, but because we had the courage to get up and fall, to get up and fall, to go again, try again, and fall again, and still have the courage to get up one more time. That one achievement may even be the source of many of your other accomplishments in your life, given that discovering balance is key to so many things in our life. You might have also discovered confidence and courage in that moment. You might even have taken it to the next level and possibly the ultimate challenge. You see, every Olympic athlete failed and failed and failed, yet had the courage to get up once again and keep going. So it didn't take us long at all to make up when we were young that failing is not an option. And once we decided that, my friends, it has impacted your life and my life every single moment of every single day. The moment we decided we cannot fail, it's not an option. It means something about us. We were doomed. So why? Because we never got that we did not fail. We simply failed to perform at something. And there's a big difference between I'm a failure and I simply did not accomplish that, whatever that is. You see, it's not the action. It's the action. It's not you. It's not anything about you. It has nothing to do with you. The action failed. So if I failed to write a book, I'm not a failure. I simply didn't write the book. The book didn't happen. It's that relationship that we have to failure. And listen closely. It's that relationship we have to failure that determines how much we go after in life and how much we accomplish. Now I'm going to say that again. Get on the edge of your seat and listen to this. This is your life. This is the difference between you having your dreams and sitting there one day on your deathbed saying, gosh, I wish I would have done that. I just wish I would have tried. The relationship we have to failure determines how much we go after in life and how much we accomplish. So how can we get that simple critical piece? And how can it give us access to what we want in life and in Youphoria? So your goals in Youphoria, how can we use this to give us what we want, to accomplish what we're after? Well, let's look. What if we really got, and I mean got it at the cellular level, like got it like it's the truth, that you did not fail at the business, for example. Instead, the business failed. So what does that mean? You now have a new opportunity. In fact, when I lost my job, my coaching job as one of the most successful coaches in the world, I literally thought it was the end of the world. I thought I was a failure. But when I actually got, no, coaching in that particular school just didn't work. And I now had a new opportunity to move on. It's actually why Youphoria was birthed, because I had the opportunity once I got that my coaching just didn't work. So what about relationships? A lot of us feel like we failed at relationships. What if we actually simply got that the relationship failed? The relationship didn't work. It's not that you don't work or that you're a failure. The relationship didn't work. Why is this important? Because you now have freedom and opportunity to go find your soulmate, to literally meet the love of your life and live happily ever after. And this is a good one. Well, it's really, really clear here. All those failed diets, the diets failed. You didn't fail. The diets failed. They didn't work. So what does that mean? You now have the opportunity for a lifestyle. They open the door for you to discover euphoria and an opportunity for a lifestyle, not another failed diet. You did not fail. The diet simply didn't work. And euphoria is a lifestyle that works, and it's aligned with who you are. So what specifically keeps us from taking actions? Well, it's really quite clear, especially those outside of our comfort zone. You guessed it, it's the fear of failure. You see, it's not the failure that stops us from taking action. It's not the failure that stops us. We got up out on a bike again and kept riding till we found balance. It's the fear of failure. It's the fear of what we make it mean. It's the fear of what we think might happen, most of which, if not all of it, is made up. That is what it is to be human. You see, many people have lived a life of, I wish I would have, fill in the blank. Or if only I would have gotten up one more time. If only I would have gotten online and done a dating service to find someone who fits my personality. If only I would have started to write that book. You see, the best-selling novel has yet to be written. It's not a book that's already been written. It's yet to be written, and it's probably going to be written by somebody who's sitting back, afraid to fail. Take a minute and let's look yourself. Look and wonder. Pause this presentation and look at what would you do if you knew you could not fail. You knew you could not fail. What would you do with your life? What would you do? What would you take on? Would you run a race? Would you write a book? Would you go on vacation, maybe even alone, meet some people? Pause this video and allow yourself to dream all of the things that have been impacted by our fear of failure and what it would be if we simply knew we couldn't fail. When you're ready, you can start this presentation again. So see, let's look at the brain science. Let's take a look at the science behind this, because the fear of failure actually activates a part of the brain called the amygdala. It is a real phenomenon. It's scientific. You see, it sets it off. It sets our amygdala off. We will talk a little bit more about how and why this happens in a later session. Right now, it's just important for you to know that there is a real thing that happens when we experience the fear of failure. It actually activates our amygdala. The result, your brain actually has the experience of being taken over. Taken over by what? Hijacked. Hijacked, meaning you no longer essentially are in control. Your brain is reacting to the fear. The result is that you experience a fight or flight experience. You panic, you run from it, or maybe you simply give up. Have you ever felt the fear of failure and just said, I'm not doing that? You literally just quit, you just gave up. This is the reason why. It literally is a scientific known factor. In fact, there's entire courses that have been developed on this topic alone and books written on this. I myself participated in a 10-week course that was all about the amygdala hijack and the impact it has on your life. You see, thoughts, emotions, they really do have an effect on us. So what's the issue? Why am I sharing this with you? Because the issue is that the fear of failure actually does activate a part of your brain. You can see there in the pictures, the fear of failure actually triggers and generates some electricity and some chemical reactions in your brain. It's a very real thing. It is not a personal thing. It is not a personal thing. The impact is very real. You see, although the worries are past memories, that's all they are, is past memories projected onto the future. And in many cases, they're worries about things that aren't even going to happen. They're not even real. They're just worries about what could happen in the past, yet the impact that they have on us is very real. You see, neurons, this is startling that neurons are actually killed off in your brain when there is a negative thought or a negative emotion, in particular the emotion of fear. It literally kills off neurons in your brain. Now, good thing we have a lot of them, but if you continue this practice of being fearful and fearful and fearful and don't create a shift, you are killing off neurons in your brain. Not only that, you're leading a very limited, very small, safe life. So what else happens? Funny you should ask. If we listen to the noise, the thoughts, and the beliefs in our head based on old memories, and we experience that fear and we don't do anything about it, something called cortisol. It's a little known hormone that greatly impacts our body. It's released. And the problem is, it's not just released, it's released in excess. So what does excess cortisol do to the body? Well, cortisol is called the stress hormone. That right there should give you an indication of what it does. It does lots. The effects of excess cortisol in the body has a huge impact on our life. It decreases your metabolism. This one little known cortisol hormone, the stress hormone, that is impacted by your thoughts, and in particular fear, decreases your metabolism. It also leads to hypertension. It can lead to sleep deprivation. That's right. Your inability to sleep might be a direct result of cortisol and the stress hormone that's in excess due to your fear and your emotions, your trapped emotions. It can lead to chronic fatigue, depression. It can lead to even things like inflammation of the joints, which is arthritis. It leads to hostility and being angry and stressed. It can even lead to hunger. You see, excess cortisol in the body can do so many things, many of which have a negative impact on our body. It can lead to tunnel vision, even migraines. And lastly, and pretty important, it actually can decrease your immune system, thus making you susceptible for disease and living a life where you're sick and you're not well. All of this a result of cortisol, which comes from, you guessed it, that emotion of fear. You see, Dr. Corrine Allen said that there's two main emotions. Fear and cortisol team up to create a stress response. They slow down healing of the body. They weaken the immune system. They increase pain. They increase blood pressure, break down your bones, your muscles, and your joints, and you got it, they promote obesity. So who would ever thought that fear for ongoing periods of time when we don't address it and we just feel the fear and feel it and feel it and feel it and don't take any actions, that it could contribute to our weight and our health? That is one of the reasons why we include emotional release work in our Youphoria program. So if you've not yet taken advantage of your sessions, your free sessions inside your Youphoria program, please contact us so that you can get started to release some of these trapped emotions, especially the ones of fear that are not even real, yet they have a very real impact on our body. The other thing you can do is take on some of these practices. We've gone over a number of them, and we're going to share with you a few more tips. So the other emotion, what do you think that is? Guess what the emotion is? And I'll give you a hint. It's the opposite of fear, so it's not in that ballpark. This one is called love. And what it does is it actually increases oxytocin in your body. And it leads to and it helps to calm and connect people. It helps to repair, heal, and restore your body. It can diminish pain and maintain a healthy heart. It can increase longevity. Yes, that's right. It can actually have you live healthier and longer. And it actually can grow neurons. So it can regrow some of those neurons that were destroyed by the fear. And you have everything to say about your experience and taking on love. And it literally is within your reach and within your control. So what do we do since we will never get rid of the fear? It's not going away, you guys. It's not going away. So what do we do? What will break through this wall of fear that each of us experiences? What is it that can have us feel the fear, have it be there, but do it anyway and take action and just bust right through that wall? What will break through the wall of fear? That's what the game is breaking through it, not getting rid of it. It's never going away. Well, it helps to really get that you created the wall. Now, why is this so important? Because if you created it, you can take it down. You're not at the effect of the wall of fear. You see, most people, they're just willing to peek through and not really go through it, but they're just willing to kind of take a look. And then if they don't like what they see, they back off. What about you? What about you? Are you willing to break through that wall, the wall of fear? And there's a way to do it, and it's easier than you think. So what will it take to break through that fear? Well, this is going to seem like the obvious. It's going to seem like the elephant in the room, but it's actually going to take you, the one that you're standing for, that you created, the one that's bold and powerful, the one that is willing to be unstoppable and unmessable. You see, and I really want you to get this, so listen closely. Kathy is somewhat afraid. That's me. I'm shy. I'll only do the things that I feel comfortable doing and only the things I know I can succeed at. And if you give me the opportunity, I'll watch TV all day long. And that's actually my default. Afraid, alone, and pretty much scared to really take a risk and do anything. And seeing that I'm very small, that I really can't accomplish much. Yet who I created myself to be is a stand for people, powerful and bold and unstoppable. I've also created myself as being someone who is fully engaged in life, like lives life fully, and someone who's free. So that's the person who created this program with you, and that's the person who stands for you and has the courage to do what it takes to make a difference in the world. It's who I created I am and where I stand, moment by moment by moment. So you see, you really can retrain your brain, and it's going to take practice. You guys, it's going to take practice. You didn't even learn to ride a bike without practice. You didn't learn to brush your teeth without practice or tie your shoes. It's going to take practice. First thing you can practice is choosing. You can only have one thought at a time. It's a fact. It's scientifically proven. You can only have one thought at a time, and you choose what that thought is. And you can practice it. Think about being sad, or think about a sad thing, something sad that happened to you. Now, stop and think about a happy one. It's a happy time, happy thing that happened to you, something happy. You can think about a horrible place to be, like being stuck on a street in a bad section of town and it's dark and there's people around you that you're afraid of. Or you can stop and literally think about being on the beach and being literally letting the water just wash up and just enjoying and soaking in the sun. You can think about what could happen in these situations that you're up against. And now you actually could think about what you want to happen, what you actually are intending to happen. It takes practice. So you can train yourself, and it does take training and practice in getting immersed in the present. What do I mean? Right here, right now. Not the past, not the future of what could happen. Right here, right now. What's happening right here, right now is I am staring at my computer with a headset on, and my dogs are in the other room sleeping, and I am present and I'm in the moment. I'm immersed in the moment. I'm not thinking about the future on the mistakes I could make, and I'm not thinking of the past of how some of the presentations didn't go very well. I'm actually immersed in the present moment right now, and I can honestly tell you I'm having a blast. I love this because I'm immersed in the present moment. You can also immerse yourself in what you want, not what you don't want. Focus on what you want. Keep thinking about it. Keep thinking about it. Keep your attention and your intention on it. What do you want? Your goal. Focus on it. Stay tuned in. Don't let it get out of your mind for even 1 second. And very critical is to stay present to your why. Why the heck you're doing this. Why you're doing anything you're doing in your life. When you have a big enough why, the how will appear. Let me say that again. When you have a big enough why, the how it will happen will appear. You see, I listened to an audiobook on my way up to a training I did this weekend in Albuquerque. And I listened to an audiobook on my way up there. It was called Man's Search for Meaning. And it was about a Nazi concentration camp and all of the atrocities that happened to the people who were captives in that concentration camp. And they said that what kept them alive in these horrific conditions where they were starving and they were freezing to death and they literally mentally were being abused and physically being abused every single day, what kept them going and what had some of them survive it was their why. They had a big why. For many of them, it was a loved one that they would one day be reunited with. And it literally kept them going and kept them alive. So very important, we've shared this time and time again, do not listen to your crap. And that's exactly what it is. It's not real. It's not your friend. It doesn't support you. It's crap. Rather than fighting for your smallness or not being enough, fight for what you want. Fight for what you want. Do you know men and women have fought for freedom? And that's why we have freedom. Who are you? Fight for who you are that you created, not that default, small, insignificant person that you tell yourself you are. Fight for who you are and stand in only that. You see, your inner voice will try to stop you. It'll get in the way and it'll use various different techniques. It'll say things like to you like, you're not enough. You messed up before, you're going to mess up again. Nobody thinks you're important. Nobody thinks you're valuable. You don't even think you're valuable. You've got to just stop and stop listening to that inner voice and stop those thoughts right in the moment. So the techniques you can use, very effective. Practice them. Pick one of these techniques and practice it all week long. And one of my favorites is stop it. Stop it. I literally will stop myself when I'm having a tantrum and I'm upset, and I'll just say to myself, stop it. It's not what you're committed to. And it's funny because I'm a pretty darn good coach, and I actually take my own coaching. I just stop it, and I go do something else. Another one is to ignore it. It's just a thought. There it is. There's another one, another thought. Just ignore it. Oh, you know what? There's another one. Just ignore that one too. You can also observe it, and this is a very effective technique. You want to look at it. Why do I have that thought? What's behind that? Oh, I know. It's because my husband walked into the room and said, "You're not wearing that, are you?" And I'm actually looking at it. Well, why did I think that was such a bad thing? Why did I make it mean that I'm overweight or I'm not pretty? It's because, it's because of something I made up. All he really said is, "You're not wearing that. Are you?" So you observe it. The next thing you could do is analyze it. Does it even make sense? Is it real? Is it real? The moment you get that it's not real, you can let it go. Now, this next technique I find kind of silly, but it works for some people. It's called run it to death. When you have a negative inner voice or a negative thought and it's really sticking around, go do something intense. Go run. Go work out in the yard and garden. Go do something and exhaust yourself, and I promise you, you will forget about that inner voice and that thought that you had. And then lastly is talk to it. Don't resist it. Talk to it. Just make sure you're not in public. It might look a little odd if you're talking to yourself in public. You just want to see, is it real? Is it true? Is it true? Am I really dumb? No, you're not. I'm actually quite smart. I've got a master's degree. I've done a lot of things and accomplished a lot of things, yet I have that inner voice called, "You're not very smart. In fact, you're dumb." That's my inner voice. So I just talk to it and I say, "Is that real? Is that true?" Well, no, actually, most people think you're pretty intelligent. You should try it on because you really are. So talk to it. So what would it have? What would it take to have a breakthrough in your performance? What is your relationship to failure? And are you willing to create a new one? Are you willing to take on failing as you're tearing down the wall? What if failing was your access to your goals and dreams being fulfilled? Because you get that it was for Colonel Sanders, for Michael Jordan, for the Beatles, for Van Gogh, for Edison, for every famous person, every one of them failed and failed and failed and failed and failed again. So what if failing was actually your access to your dreams and your goals being fulfilled? What would that be like for you? What if you took on failing like it's just part of the process? It's what all successful people do. So let's look a little bit further at the whole resistance to failing. You see, we have resistance to failing. I want to share something powerful with you, though, something powerful from nature. It's about wolves. So listen closely. You see, this is called failure by wisdom of the wolves. While the wolf pack may be nature's most effective hunting machine, it has a failure rate of approximately 90%. Statistically, only one time out of 10 does the wolf have a successful hunt, which is so necessary to the survival of the pack. So as a result, wolves often go hungry. Their response, though, is not lethargy. It's not surrender. It's not defeat. They don't beat themselves up. They don't go into depression funks as people often do. Wolves simply rededicate themselves to the task at hand. They continue to apply their time-tested skills, utilizing the knowledge they've received and they've acquired from temporary setbacks, confident that success will eventually come and they will get their prey. They never stop doing the little things, attending to every detail as they canvass endless miles in search of their prey. You see, the human concept of failure has no relevance to the wolf. An unsuccessful hunt simply hones the skills and replenishes the desire. The mistakes made are not viewed as failures, but instead they become part of the wolf's collective knowledge base. The knowledge is there for future use. You see, what humans choose to consider failure, the wolf converts into wisdom. Wolves seem to prioritize the unsuccessful events in their lives. 9 hunts that yield no results do not deter them, for they know that with the 10th, 11th, or even 12th, victory will be theirs. Many people view a single unsuccessful hunt as a symbol of their, quote, failure in life. So from the wolf, we can learn that it is simply time to go hunting again. Failure is not an attitude. It's not a reality. Failure is a perception. So, my friends, one of the things you will start to hear me say moving forward is time to go hunting again. Time to go hunting again. Now, why would I say that? Because that simply means we didn't fail. It's simply time to get up and go do it again. So what are those areas of life where you resist failing? And by you, I mean all of us human beings. We resist failing. And what are those areas where we resist failing? Well, there's a lot of areas, actually. Many areas, for that matter. We look to relationships, and we sometimes have it that we failed in relationships. We failed in careers. We failed in leadership roles, traveling, maybe new activities. We don't even take them on. Once we fail, we stop. We don't do it again. Maybe we've even failed in health and well-being. And again, these are just things that didn't work, yet we connect to them like we are failures. We also connect to falling in love. We don't fall in love because we failed, and we're a failure. Following your bliss. Have you resisted following your bliss for fear of failure? Have you resisted writing a book, starting a business, or being straight about what you really want in life? Have you resisted taking a stand for your life and your health and your well-being because you're resisting that you might fail? So this is really important. You see, another additional powerful and proven technique to move forward in areas where you're afraid to fail is to get, and this is very important, to get clear that it is not the results that stop you. You're not your results. You are not a failure. You are not your results. It's not the results that stop you. It's what you say about your results and how you attach to the results. It's not you. So I'm going to repeat that again. Why do we resist failing? Why do we not go after our dreams, our relationships, our vacations, everything we want, the juicy things in life? It's because it's not the results that stop us. It's what we say about the results. It's the story we make up, the way we attach ourselves to it, and how we attach ourselves to the result. It's not us. It's how we identify with the results. So for example, if we were to ask someone out And we say we were afraid to. Why are we afraid to ask someone to go out? It's because we fear failing. Well, what are we fearing? That they could say no? Who cares? No just means no. Doesn't mean anything about me. It simply means no. Maybe they have someone else. Maybe they think that I'm too good for them or they're too good for me. Who cares? It doesn't mean anything about me. It simply means no. You do not want to attach yourself to the results. That is why we resist failing. So wow, after all of that, we need a little break to lighten things up. So let's add a little bit of humor in this and let's lighten things up a bit. Okay, the 4 food groups are stuff that's really bad for you, stuff that's really bad for you, stuff that will kill you now, and of course, stuff that will kill you later. So hopefully you're laughing right now because humor is a great thing to take away some of the significance that and the meaning that we give to things. But remember, it's always about you. You always have the power to choose. You have the power to choose. Just like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, who found out in the end that she always had the magic within her. She always had the power right there with her, yet she kept searching for where she could find the power. And it was always right there. She always had the choice. So fast food is not necessarily healthy food. Let's just get straight with that. Do you really know that what's in the food? A lot of chemicals. And do you know that real food will decay and break down fairly quickly? And organic fruits and vegetables, they actually go bad even quicker than regular conventionally grown ones. The healthier something is, the faster it will decay. So one young boy in elementary school did a school experiment once he found out that they put chemicals in hamburgers, Happy Meals, and things like that. He did an experiment. He spread out his Happy Meal on a plate, and he had his mom put it on top of the refrigerator, and he put the date on the plate. He wanted to see how many days it would take before the Happy Meal would decay or go bad. Now, this is quite shocking, but he actually won an award for his project. Here is day 180. You do the math, it's 6 months later. And he won an award for this. Why? Because he found that the food actually didn't break down at all. In fact, it was as if it wasn't even real food. Now I know I myself have found French fries under the seat of my car when I'm cleaning it. And the funny thing is I don't eat French fries. So they likely belong to whoever owned the car before me, which means they too never broke down. So let's look at the healthy side of things. Let's do a quick review on protein, a simple technique to lose weight and be healthy without doing more work or without suffering. It is to eat a protein with every meal, and even to choose protein as a snack, and especially if it's protein with fiber. It is a critical factor in losing weight and keeping weight off. Now, how simple is that? Simply adding protein to every meal. So why? Why add protein? What is the reason it helps you lose weight? Well, because protein stimulates the metabolism. It is satiating, meaning it keeps you full long after you eat it. And it has a relatively small effect on your blood sugar level, which is absolutely critical in losing weight and maintaining good health. So there's lots of good sources of protein, as we talked about last week. Eggs are one of the best sources. Meat, fish, chicken, tofu, vegetables, whey, and nuts and seeds all are great sources of protein. Now, organic eggs from free-range chickens are also a great source of protein. Why? Because they contain 9 essential amino acids, 6 grams of the highest quality protein that you can even eat. They contain lutein and zeaxanthin for your eyes. They contain choline for your brain, your nervous system, your cardiovascular system. Choline affects all of those areas of your body, and it contains naturally occurring vitamin B12. See, organic eggs from free-range chickens, they have 2 times more omega-3s than the regular eggs do. 2 times more omega-3s. They have 1/3 less cholesterol. They have 1/4 less saturated fat. They've got 2/3 more vitamin A and 3 times more vitamin E. And get this, they actually have 7 times more beta carotene than the regular conventional eggs. So They also have high lecithin, which is critical for health. So don't be afraid to eat eggs. You see, that was a misconception years ago when they said you shouldn't be eating eggs. There's no rise in cholesterol. So you do want to avoid, however, eating eggs daily. And why is that? Because you might develop an allergy to them. So you could actually eat a dozen eggs a week and they will not cause your cholesterol to rise. And this, by the way, folks, is a change in the science and the belief. It used to once be believed that you should not eat eggs because of cholesterol. That is simply no longer true. In fact, scientists have shown this and proven that eggs are healthy for you. They're not bad and they will not raise cholesterol. Now, no more than 3 or 4 days a week if you prepare them conventionally. Why? Because you actually can, if you eat them too often, can develop an allergy. And by the way, folks, you can develop an allergy or your body can react to anything you eat too much of. You don't want to eat a food more than 2 times in a row, and you don't want to eat it every day. So you want to say if you were to have leftovers for 2 days, then don't eat that again for 3 or 4 days, or you could very well develop an allergy. Now, we covered this last week, but why pasture-raised chicken versus farm-raised chicken? Why? Why do it? Well, there's huge reasons for it. In fact, pasture-raised chickens roam around and they consume vitamin-rich grasses and even bugs. So their meat has, get this, 21% less fat and 28% fewer calories than the conventionally grown chicken. Not to mention, it's very healthy because it's not pumped with steroids and hormones and things that make you sick. Now, just a reminder about MSG. It's used as a preservative to enhance the flavor. It can be toxic as a food additive. And it's anything that's processed. So if something's processed, it likely has some MSG added to it. And it's activated by heating during processing. And by the way, it actually can be poisonous to your system. There are many allergic reactions that you can get from MSG poisoning. So just look and see if any of these impact you. Headaches, do you have numbness or dizziness? What about nausea or palpitations, which is common with some people? What about elevated blood pressure, difficulty breathing? All of these could be symptoms of MSG poisoning. So my coaching to you is just stay away from MSG. It's nasty and it hurts us and it even impacts our health and our weight. We can have panic attacks, sleeplessness, depression, confusion, even food cravings. So basically, just cut it out. You don't need it. Now, if it's really severe, MSG poisoning can actually be life-threatening. Now, it's probably not for many of you, but just know it can produce life-threatening allergic reactions, including hives, swelling of the face, tongue, and throat, and it can even affect your breathing. So, what do we avoid with MSG? Avoid processed and packaged foods. That's where it's found. Avoid some pre-cooked soups if you can, or just minimize it, or look for the symbol that says no MSG. Avoid restaurant foods, especially hot bars. They often will have MSG unless it says no MSG. Avoid soy sauce. Soy sauce, by the way, also has wheat. So you can take a good substitute for soy sauce is called Bragg's amino acids. Tastes great, and it's a great substitute for soy sauce. Bragg's, B-R-A-G-G-S, amino acids. Avoid Chinese and Asian food places unless you're making it yourself, or tell them you want no MSG. Just specifically request it when you're ordering, and they can prepare it for you with no additional cost and no additional sauces. So let's jump into something brand new, something very different, something we haven't really talked much about yet, and that's carbs. You see, this young lady, she's on a low-carb diet. Whenever she feels low, she just eats some carbs. So what is a carb? Well, a carb is one of the 3 sources of fuel, meaning there's fats, proteins, and carbs. Those are the 3 sources of fuel. One of the 3 is carbs. 4 calories per gram. It's the main and most efficient source of energy. Listen to that. It's the main, most efficient source of energy, which means it's critical. It's important. You need carbs, and we'll discuss why later. They supply the body with the energy needed for the muscles, the brain, and even the central nervous system. You see, the human brain depends on carbs for its energy. So let's look at the evolution of carbs. First, we had the paleocarbs. The carbohydrates that sustained early mankind. These were the hunters and gatherers. They ate vegetables, fruits, and even some tubers. Rich in fiber, rich in vitamins and minerals, plus they had what we call a low glycemic index. Very healthy. Then carbohydrates developed as a result of agriculture, and this is called the neocarbs. It's a result of agriculture, grains, legumes, flour products, then eventually processed grain products, such as those made with white flour and sugar. These, by the way, have high glycemic index. So can you see where choosing the paleo carbs would be healthy for you and help your weight versus the neocarbs, as you see the gentleman in the bottom right corner? Definitely a result of neocarbs. So what is the truth about carbohydrates? See, carbohydrates are found in fruits, vegetables, beans, dairy products, foods made from grain products, and even things like sweeteners, such as sugar. Sugar is a carb. Honey is a carb. Molasses, corn syrup, they're all carbs, and you'll soon see they're the, quote, unhealthy carbs. So what are carbs? They're broken down into two different kinds. The simple carbs, which break down quickly into the glucose and cause a surge in blood sugar levels, which thus increase insulin. You see it on the right there. It's all the junk, the sweet stuff, the candies, the breads, the cakes, the potato chips and the pretzels. It's all of the stuff that we call simple carbs. It breaks down very quickly and surges your blood sugar level and increases your insulin, which, by the way, causes us to be fat. Simple carbs are what contribute to obesity and health issues. This causes a surge in glucose in the blood, which spikes your blood sugar level. You can see the spike there, and then what happens is a huge dip, and you start craving. Have you ever noticed how you have cravings? That's why. Simple carbs will lead to cravings and spikes in blood sugar. Sugar, soft drink, candy, cakes, white rice, white bread, bagels, cookies, all the stuff that we know is nasty for us. I call them the white things that actually need to be avoided. They're all white. Simple carbs have little or no fiber, so it goes very quickly into the small intestine, and there's nothing to slow down the absorption. So you see a quick chart there, simple carbs on the right, and then complex carbs on the left. So let's look at the complex carbs. They, on the other hand, are healthy for you. You see, they actually stabilize the blood sugar, and they actually don't cause an insulin spike. The simple carbs, look at that, up and down and up and down. No wonder we crave things and we're so obese and overweight. Complex carbs are broken down slowly and gradually, and then they slowly and gradually enter into the bloodstream. No spike in blood sugar, no spike in glucose. Complex carbs have high fiber, so it keeps it in the stomach longer. The result is there's more of a result of feeling full, just like oatmeal has you feel full longer. Glucose is used as fuel. So instead of a spike of glucose, it's used as fuel. It's burned. And the reserve fuel goes to the liver and then the muscles, and anything remaining then turns into fat. And by the way, there's usually not as much remaining. So you actually burn what you eat when you eat complex carbs. What are some examples? Whole grains, oatmeal, vegetables, beans, nuts, and seeds. All of them are highly recommended with the exception of whole grains. I tend to tell people stay away from them if you can because they still have some negative health effects. Now, let's break complex carbs even further down into two types. There are two types of complex carbs. Both of them are okay for you. One is actually better than the other. First is digestible carbs, and this is your starch. This can be processed by the human digestive system and actually used for fuel. It's your starches. Again, you don't want to get a lot of them, but you can eat some of them. The other is called indigestible carbs, and that's your fiber. And remember we said last week, fiber rules. It's key to every good, healthy weight management program. Fiber rules, indigestible carbs. It's the second type of complex carb. It cannot be absorbed by the human digestive system, so it's not even absorbed, and it's not even an energy source for the body. Yet it promotes huge health benefits in many ways. Why? Why? Because remember, fiber and this indigestible carbs keep your blood sugar from spiking. And it also helps you go to the bathroom more, it helps with digestion, it just helps you be healthy. Now, it's important to note that all unprocessed fruits, vegetables, grains, now I'm talking unprocessed fruits, vegetables, grains, beans, nuts, all of them contain both digestive and indigestible carbs. So they contain both of them, and all of them are healthy for you. So the worst offenders, the things you want to stay away from given your commitment, is starches. So you really don't want to go after the white rice, the corn, and the potatoes. You also want to stay away from liquid carbohydrates. What are liquid carbohydrates? Well, things like sauces, things like high fructose corn syrup, probably agave syrup, any of those types of things, liquid carbohydrates. You also want to stay away from foods that are made of refined flours. You know what they are. They're pasta, they're cereals, things that are easily digestible are some of the worst for you. So quite clearly, it's carbohydrates that drive insulin, and insulin drives fat accumulation. I'm going to repeat that. It's carbohydrates, it's the bad carbs that drive insulin, and then insulin drives fat accumulation. So bottom line is fats don't make us fat, carbs do. And you see here, the carbs will spike your blood sugar, which causes you to go into fat storage. Protein doesn't do that, and fat definitely doesn't do that. So it's the carbs, the wrong kind of carbs are the biggest problem. Why? Because the wrong kind of carbs actually have our cells become bigger. And as the cells are fatter, fat is stored in fat cells. And that makes us fatter. So fat flows in and out of our cells constantly, but the fat that is stored in fat cells actually swells and gets bigger. And it's this that makes us fatter. And this is all a result of the wrong kinds of carbs and the spike in blood sugar. So how exactly do carbs, which are high glycemic index foods, turn into fat? How does that happen? Well, carbohydrate molecules are broken down into glucose, and glucose is absorbed into the bloodstream, and then it's used in several different ways. Much of the glucose is used for immediate energy by the cells, so some of it gets burned off quickly. Excess glucose is stored as glycogen in the liver and the muscle tissues. And then after the energy needs are met and the glycogen stores are filled, the excess glucose gets converted to fatty acids and stored as fat. So when it spikes very quickly, high carbs, unhealthy, simple carbs, they turn to fat because of the spike. You see, the fat tissue has an unlimited storage capability. So you do not want to be dumping fat into these tissues. So let's look at carbohydrates and the glycemic index. So carbohydrates should make up about 45 to 65% of your diet, and approximately 130 grams of carbs are okay a day. So what is a glycemic index? See, the harder your body has to work to convert that carbohydrate into glucose and then ultimately fat, the lower the food's glycemic index. So a low glycemic index is ideal for losing weight and being healthy. A high glycemic index is unhealthy and what has contributed to us being overweight. So the harder your body has to work, the better it is, meaning it's very slow to break down. It's a slow process. It doesn't spike it, boom, right off the bat. So therefore, anything that slows the digestion and absorption of a carbohydrate containing food will lower its glycemic index. You see nuts, you see beans, you see high fiber foods, and you see fruits and vegetables. All of those slow the digestion and therefore lower the glycemic index. You see, the glycemic index is a numerical scale that is used to indicate how fast and how high a particular food, and only a carb, they only have glycemic indexes for carbs, can raise our blood glucose, our blood sugar levels. So the faster it raises it, the higher the number, the higher the glycemic index. The lower the number, the slower it raises our blood sugar, or it doesn't raise it at all. So a low glycemic index would be anything 55 or lower. And that's most of your fruits and vegetables, your meats, your eggs, your nuts. Okay? A medium glycemic index, which you can use from time to time, would be 56 to 69, and that's your whole wheat products and your bananas and things like that. A high glycemic index, 70 and above, you want to avoid. That is if you want to be healthy and lose weight. Donuts, baked potatoes, white bread, white rice, Rice Krispies, cereals, processed foods, pretzels, French fries, raisins, and dates. Yes, those are the few fruits that you do want to avoid. They spike your blood sugar and cause you to go into fat storage. So take just a minute and look here at the glycemic index of some of these foods. Notice that the nuts are very low and the candies are higher, and then the baked potato, that's very high. Just take a minute and look at this. You can stop the presentation if you want a little bit more time. You see, Youphoria is about choosing low glycemic foods. Why? Because they accelerate weight loss. They keep off the fat, and they're actually healthy for you. High glycemic index spikes the blood sugar. Low glycemic does not. And you have everything to say about the foods you choose. You do not need to eat only low glycemic foods at every meal. So don't think you can never have a high glycemic food. You simply get the benefit. The more low glycemic foods you eat, continue to have a sustainable, long-lasting benefit, even on the future foods that you're eating. Now, what is glycemic load? Well, what this is it's a way to assess the impact of the carb consumption has and take into account the amount of the carb. So while the glycemic index just is related to how fast that food spikes your blood sugar, the glycemic load takes into account how much you would have to eat. So essentially, if you eat watermelon, even though watermelon spikes your blood sugar, if you eat a small amount of it, not a problem. It's got a very small glycemic load. Why? Because of the amount. You're not going to eat the whole watermelon. So an awareness of food's glycemic index can help you control more than just your weight, you guys. It can help you control your blood sugar levels. And by doing so, it can help you prevent heart disease. It can help improve your cholesterol levels by going with a low glycemic food. It can prevent insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. It can prevent certain cancers. And isn't this something we're all interested in? And it can help maintain a healthy weight. So now you're starting to see that the glycemic index in the carbs that you're eating impact your health and your weight. How and why? Well, glucose is not used in the cells. When it's not used, guess what happens? It's stored as fat. That increases your weight, suppresses your immune system, you age faster, and you lose your memory and a whole lot more. So let me repeat that again. When this glucose is spiked, high glycemic, high glucose spikes, it's not used in the cells, it's stored as fat. It increases your weight, suppresses your immune system, you age faster, and you lose your memory, and therefore you're unhealthy. Here's a chart that tells you even a little bit more about what types of foods have high glycemic indexes, and some of them also have high glycemic loads. So you can see white bread, extremely high, way beyond the normal amount. You can also see pita bread, same thing, very high. Hamburger bun, 87 glycemic, in the high range. French bread, 136, high range. Bagel, 103. I once had a woman say to me, I eat very little and I cannot understand why I cannot lose weight. And I said, well, what do you eat? She said, it's simple. I start my day with coffee and a bagel, and then I eat a salad for lunch, and I eat almost nothing for dinner. And I said, do you realize that bagel has literally messed you up for the entire day? You remove the bagel and then eat like a queen the rest of the day. Eat your meat, eat your vegetables, eat your fruits, eat your nuts. Eat as much of the vegetables as you want, but you know what? Eliminate the bagel and you will lose weight. And she did. So here's another example of the chips and crackers and corn chips and popcorn and wheat thins, soda crackers, pretzels. Look at how high the glycemic index is. Now we know why we're unhealthy and why we've gained weight. Yeah, look at some of these other things. Look at the fruits and vegetables, the broccoli, the peas. Look at the low glycemic index for, kidney beans and some of the other things. And then look at the high ones, the baked potato, the brown rice. Again, stop this presentation and take a closer look. And look not only at the glycemic index, look at the glycemic load. This is the impact it's having on your weight and your health. Look at the glycemic load of white rice at the very bottom, 283. That's huge. So why so much attention on glycemic index? Well, because too much insulin can cause problems. Plain and simple. Too much insulin causes problems. Causes high bad cholesterol. It causes high triglycerides, low good cholesterol. It causes high blood pressure, causes insulin resistance, increased appetite, and obesity. And it increases your risk for developing or elevating type 2 diabetes. So you definitely, please, consider choosing low glycemic foods and do yourself a favor. Now, there are some hidden dangers of bread, pasta, and rice, so I'm going to share this with you. You see, when your blood sugar rises quickly, the pancreas responds by squirting insulin into the bloodstream. When you're not exercising a lot, that sugar winds up in your fat cells. So the insulin's nickname is, guess what? The fat storage hormone. That's the nickname for insulin, the fat storage hormone. Furthermore, consuming carbohydrates with high glycemic index increases your risk of coronary heart disease. So you get the picture. Now it's a matter of choice. Now you also don't want to get rid of carbs altogether. Remember, you don't want to eliminate them. In fact, there's some dangers to going on a very low carb diet. With no glucose available for energy, guess what? The body starts to use protein. And the protein comes from the food and it's used for your energy. Therefore, the protein isn't being used to make new cells, new tissues and enzymes and hormones. If it's not being used for those, your body will suffer. When carbohydrates are lacking, the body cannot burn fat the way it's intended to. So when you're missing carbs, you're not burning the fat you need to. And lastly, a low-carb diet has a negative impact on your exercise and your athletic performance. So your energy levels go down. So if you have a certain diet, a certain way you're eating, and your energy levels are very low, consider you're not getting enough of the healthy carbs. That's an indicator when your energy levels are low. Now the long-term effects, if you go on a low-carb diet, cancer risk increases. Too much protein can lead to gout, and kidney stones can form on high protein and low carb diets. So you see, guys, you want to be balanced. You want to make good choices. You don't want to eliminate carbs from your diet. And over time, high protein diets can even lead to loss of calcium and osteoporosis. And as we mentioned earlier, your risk of heart disease is greatly increased on a low carb diet that's high in protein and fats. So in closing, you have an opportunity here because you see obstacles. They're only those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off your goal. So remember, focus on what you want. Focus on what's important to you. Focus on your why. Focus on who you are. And above all else, focus on your goal. Focus on that thing that you're going after, that you're passionate about and that you want. So today, this week, I'm challenging you. I'm giving you an opportunity. Take on something you fear. Take on something that's so far out of your comfort zone, there's no way you want to do it, but do it anyway. And I promise you, who you become by doing that will be extraordinary and will create all new openings for you and new opportunities for you. Second, try on eating a protein with every meal. It's a simple proven fact. If you eat a protein with every meal, you will lose some weight and you will be healthy. Don't eliminate the carbs, just choose good, healthy carbs. So are you willing to try eating a protein with every meal? Just try it. Add a fiber. In fact, add it as a snack. Carry around a bag of maybe almonds with you and eat some fiber with every meal, or certainly add it as a snack. Next, and this is really critical, embrace failing. Just like all of those successful people I shared with you, take it on like it's a game. Hey, I failed there today. Good, I learned something. Up, failed again. Yay, I'm getting closer. You want to take on and embrace failing as your access to your dreams being fulfilled. It really is. And lastly, share who you are, that you created you are, with at least 2 people. At least 2 people. Share it and share what you're up to. Share what you're taking on in life. Share what your goal is and what you're going after. The more you share, the more likely you will fulfill on that goal. So in closing, guys, success is a journey. It's not a destination. You know, when we get to the end of your Youphoria program, you'll find and discover that it's only just the beginning. It's a journey for the rest of your life, and what you've gained and what you've shifted and what you now have access to will give you the keys to the kingdom, and a journey that is extraordinary, that is full of possibilities and full of whatever you want in your life. So have a great week. I acknowledge you for all that you've done and all that you're willing to do. And remember, keep taking small actions towards your goal. It truly is the secret to success. We'll see you next week.